If you are a product or a destination, it doesn't matter. Invest time to experience the product. My experience is that the minute I have been in a place, I have my own experience, and it's so much easier to share that experience and really sell that experience if you have experienced it yourself.
Okay, everybody, we've been talking about recovery for a while now, and my team at Relic has been working on recovery campaigns for several destinations over the last couple of months. They've actually developed a pretty amazing, we'll call it an algorithm, to know when it's safe to do acquisition marketing in a market. And so what I mean by that is you've got government regulations, you've got, how is the virus affecting that market, whether there's been a decrease in cases or a decrease in deaths in that market. When is it safe to advertise, hey, come to our destination? Like I said, our team has come up with this algorithm to provide that information for you, and we're offering a free market report. We're calling it Recovery Triggers. And if you'd like a free Recovery Trigger report for your target market where you want to draw visitors from, please email me directly at adam@relicagency.com. Or you can go to recoverytriggers.relicagency.com and we'll get you set up with a free report, and we even have the ability to send you a weekly recurring report so you can see what's happening in that market on a weekly basis and make sure you're launching your acquisition campaign at the perfect time. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Destination Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Stoker. Excited to be with you today. We've got another great guest for you. I feel like I say that every time, but we just keep getting such wonderful people to join us on the show. And my guest today actually reached out to me through my website, and she had a question about a previous episode. And then as we got to talking and I learned more about her, I thought, man, she would be a wonderful guest on the show. Her name is Josephina McDonald. And Josephina, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for the invitation. I was so stoked.
Well, we are stoked to have you as well, and I want to get into how you found the show and kind of some of the things that you and I have been talking about. But as you know, as an avid listener, we always ask at the very beginning. We want to know if you could go anywhere in the world, assuming COVID isn't an issue. Where would you go?
Well, at the moment, it's maybe a little bit of an unexpected answer, but I would go to the Netherlands. I was booked in to go to the Netherlands to see my parents who live there for the Easter break with my 17-year-old daughter. And I had a prediction, so I cancelled mid-February. I had no interest to get stuck in Dubai or something like that on the way home, not being able to get back home.
Right.
So the result is that I haven't seen my parents for a year and a half. And yeah, so it's not so much the destination itself as well as the beautiful people who live there who would like to see. But in saying that, the other thing I would really love to do in the Netherlands one day, I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but the Netherlands is one of the only countries in the world that's totally flat. There's not a mountain in sight. And,
no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so there you go. And it's an amazing bike path in the Netherlands, a very safe bike path if you know how to ride a bike. Otherwise, it's not safe. But in the Netherlands, you have first rides. So you always have rides before any cars. So it's really an amazing place to ride bike. And they have these tours that you can do, a windmill tour through Holland, or you can do a restaurant tour to Holland, or whatever interest you might have. They've come up with a bike tour. And because things are flat, it's so easy to travel by bike, and you see so much on your bike. I have this dream to go from the south to the north of Holland. I think it's only 250 kilometers, Adam, so it's not a very, very big country. But just to soak up the natural beauty of the Netherlands, maybe, alongside my parents, it would be an amazing trip.
Oh, that sounds amazing. And, we're going to talk about your background and everything, but it's good for everybody to know early on that you are from the Netherlands. And we'll talk about how you ended up in Australia. But before we do that, I would really love to hear how about your favorite place you've ever actually visited? You know, your dream destination is to go to the Netherlands and ride your bike across the country, and it sounds wonderful. Tell me about a trip you've been on that you have just loved.
So I was finished my uni at 21, and I was going to start a new course. And I decided to go to a kibbutz in Israel for 9 weeks in the summer holiday. So that was July, August. And I ended up in Jordan on a holiday while I was at the kibbutz. And it has everlasting memories. I got nearly sold in the middle of the desert for 50 camels.
Oh, no.
I'm glad my then boyfriend didn't take that offer on. And the food, the authentic food was so amazing. I have such fond memories, and I think it was only a week or so. But wow, if I could ever relive that time, that was absolutely amazing.
Okay, I know that we're talking about travel, we're talking about your trip to Jordan, but I need to understand something. So, as far as trading goes, 50 camels, is that a lot of camels, or is that for a person, is that a low number of camels? I'm curious how many camels is it was 50 camels a good offer? That's what I want to know.
Apparently it was. I don't know what the German boyfriend would have done with the 50 camels, but it was a good try.
Well, we're glad too that he didn't take the offer. It's funny that you bring up Jordan though, because we had another episode just recently. In fact, we've already recorded it, but we haven't released it. And in that episode, Alex Sousa here from Relic talks about Jordan and how amazing of a place it is. And you know, to have two people in a row talk about it, it must be an amazing country.
Yeah, it really is. It is. It has culture. It has the unexpected, and it has a lot of religion. It's a real sensational place. It's something you kind of have to experience, but doesn't always allow you to experience it because it can be also a little bit of a dangerous place to go to. So, yeah, I wouldn't recommend for any lady on her own to go to Jordan. Let's just say it that way.
Got it. Got it. Okay, so we're gonna use the buddy system when we go to Jordan.
Yes, good idea.
Okay, well let's talk about you, Josephina. Tell us a little bit about you, and I guess first of all, let's start with what you do and where you do it, and then we'll dive into your background.
Yeah, great. So I am a business owner together with my husband, who is Australian, of Halls Gap Lakeside Tourist Park, which is, you could call it a caravan park, but we call it a tourist park. And we offer glamping and cabins and powered and unpowered sites for people to pull their caravans on or roll their swags out. We don't mind what they bring. We're on 10 acres in the middle of the Grampians, which is a little town called Halls Gap. We have only got 420 locals, and we have a bakery and a news agency and a few cafes, lovely restaurants, but it's a miniature town. And then in December last year, we bought a new property which is called Grampians Getaway, and it has 6 pyramids on it, which are like cabin style pyramid looking apartments. And they set in a beautiful 60-acre setting with a enormous lake, which is a 1 kilometer walking track. And I was actually going to develop that in a wellness retreat. But because of COVID-19, I had to put all my resources back into my core business, which is Halls Gap Lakeside. And I've stepped back into that space, and I will let the other space evolve as we go on, but not put any more pressure on myself to get that running.
Got it. And we all had to make crazy adjustments when COVID hit, and it's good to hear that your core business is still going strong. And let's talk a little bit about Halls Gap. It's right next to a national park. Is that right?
Absolutely. So we are in the heart of the Grampians National Park. So Halls Gap on the map would look like a heart in the middle of a national park. And it is the place.
Oh, so you're in the national park.
We are in the national park.
Got it.
Yes. Yes, and you would see us as a valley floor, and then around us are the mountain ranges, which you would call a national park. So a short drive away are amazing waterfalls and lookouts and pinnacle walks, and we have even called the Grand Canyon here. It's a very miniature Grand Canyon, but we have one. And yeah, it's just a stunning, stunning place with a big soul in it.
Wow, sounds amazing. And I'm guessing that most of your travelers that come and stay at Hall's Gap are seeking out those national park experiences, and that's why they come and stay.
Absolutely, yes. They definitely need a good dose of fresh air when they come here, and that's what they leave with. I also bottle some of the air up, and I give it to them as a gift on departure. Especially those people who are not well or doing it a little bit hard, really appreciate it. They can have one sniff and then they have to come back and refill it. So
That's great.
I would be most happy to send you a bottle.
I would love one. That would be wonderful. I'll send you a copy of my book, and you can send me a bottle of air from Grampians National Park.
It's one of those Jordan trades. I don't know if you get much out of my trade, but I know I get a lot out of yours. So thank you.
Well, let's talk about you. You know, you're really unique because you're from the Netherlands, and now you are running a resort in a national park in Australia. Tell me how that happened. How did you end up where you are today?
Wow. Where? How did you? Well, I'm one of you because I'm very normal, not so unique. Because I don't think anybody on the podcast has studied tourism just yet, and I'm exactly in the same category. I had a great interest in a human being, and so I studied a bachelor degree in social work. And then I obviously did my trip to Israel, but I had already signed up to study human resource management after that. So I landed a job after those 6 years assisting the disadvantaged youth into the workforce. And I thought, before I get too serious, let me just do a bit of travel. So I was going to go to Indonesia and Japan and a few other countries, but I needed a working holiday visa because going to uni is an expensive exercise, and I needed to generate some money whilst traveling. So did some research, and I ended up going to Australia. Had a wonderful time. Really tried to mix in with I only stayed one night at a backpackers hostel. The rest of the time, I landed jobs and lived with locals and made some really beautiful friendships. And one of those friendships was my now husband, Rowan's cousin. And I was working at Barflies, which was a little bar next to a nightclub in the inner city of Melbourne. And I was making coffees all night for those people dropping out of the nightclub. And his cousin said to me that he got a phone call from his cousin Rowan, and he needed a hand with the hay, and if I wanted to come. So I thought that's a great opportunity for me to get to know some more locals in the rural parts of Australia. So that's what I did. So I met my husband on his farm. He couldn't believe his eyes. I wasn't ugly back then. And he was on his mower with a stubby in his hand and a mullet, something I'd never fall for, but I did. And 20 years later, we're still going strong.
Oh, so great. What a great story.
So that is how I landed in Australia. And then I left to Holland, summer love over. And my dad told me to see a career psychologist, and her name was Sheila. And Sheila is not a common name in Holland, but her name was Sheila, which is a very Australian referral to a female. And she said, "Do you hear the footsteps upstairs?" I'm going, "Yeah." She says, "That's the man I shouldn't have married. I should have married the American bloke I met on my travels when after uni." I'm going, "Okay." Point taken. So I rang Rowan straight away. He came over. We pretty much got engaged. I only knew the bloke 3 months. I migrated 8 months later and got married 3 months later. So it was
Wow.
it was a quick one, but I was following my heart and proven to be right. And he was managing a golf club, and I was having troubles with my degrees because they weren't valid pretty much in Australia. You had to go through a whole accreditation process. And I said, if I travel 17,000 kilometers away to marry somebody, I really have not so much interest in living a whole separate life. So we kind of decided to run a business together. So when the secretary at the golf club where he worked resigned, we put in an expression of interest to run it together. And that's how I did my apprenticeship of running our own business. That's how I feel it. So that was great. And then if I can make the step to tourism, if you want me to.
Yes, please.
So I did that for 13 years and didn't really enjoy it. Golf is not my thing, and but I was very appreciative of me able to learn to run my own business. We went to the Netherlands a lot for little camping trips and meet up with my family. And Rowan always said, I want to own my own caravan park one day. That's because Rowan is into turf, so his degree is actually turf management. And he just thought his skill and my skill together would be really eligible to run a caravan park together. And then one of the members at the golf club actually had offered as a job 13 years after we worked at the golf club to run his caravan park in Tasmania. We flew over and the lady said, I finished ironing at 9 o'clock at night. And I said to Rowan, I'm not doing this. I don't want to give everything up. So we decided to sell our house, travel around Australia and find a place we could manage because we had no financial resources to be able to buy our own park. But fate had it that Rowan found something online in Halls Gap where we married because his uncle actually lived in Halls Gap and we ended up marrying in Halls Gap. So I've come back after 13 years to a place where we got married, which is a really lovely story. And he saw this place for sale. It was really, really run down and it was accessible financially. I won't bore you with that part. But that's what we bought, the most rundown caravan park in Australia in a place where only 420 people live now, but back then it was probably only 200. I thought
Right.
I was going to cry for the next 10 years.
But what an amazing decision. You know, one of those things that happen to you in your life that once you do it, you realize how great of a deal it was. And you've been there now for 10 years, you say, right?
Yeah, 8 years ago we bought the business. Yeah.
8 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, congratulations. What a fun story of how you ended up where you are. Tell me a little bit about, one of the things that you mentioned that as you approach your resort is that you treat it like a destination. Tell me what you mean by that when you say you treat your resort like a destination.
I was probably triggered, Adam, by the fact that I was a really humble person, had no idea about the tourism industry when I stepped into this role. So what happens is that things pop at you. I had no idea where the restaurants were or what you could do in Halls Gap. And I went to the Visitor Information Centre and I noticed there was a real lack of information. So I took it upon me to design really strong branding for my new business. I thought that's really important. But I also started collecting a lot of information which I couldn't find. And because I was new in Halls Gap and new in the tourism industry, I was seeing it more out of a consumer point of view. And that is what I did. So I've adapted my whole strategy around sharing information with my customers to make it extremely accessible and extremely tailored. And I know that a destination marketing organization does so much more than sharing information. I mean, they are, so involved with the government arrangements and funding and social media marketing and all that. But there was a missing link between the visitor and the sharing of information. And that also had a lot to do with the lack of resource. They had only 2.5 staff members, and the region is over 100,000 hectares big. So they were understaffed, and I felt that I could play a role in that. And because of that mindset, I have then rippled that on and really started building a relationship with all those businesses and the wider community and also the stakeholders. And then very often when I do marketing, I actually have to ask myself, am I working for Grampians Tourism or am I a owner operator of a product? And I actually don't care what the answer is, because every time I market the Grampians, it will be good for the whole Grampians and good for me, because people appreciate that I'm sharing the Grampians as a whole and not constantly point the finger to myself and how good I am, because that's not important. It's about making sure that all your guests have an amazing experience within the region. And if they then stay with me or with somebody else, it doesn't matter. They stay with me often anyway because it's so amazing. But I really don't mind, because we have a really high occupancy rate. And if I can make this Grampians region a nicer region, it will appeal to a lot of people. So that's what I mean by I treat myself as a destination and not so much as a product.
I love it. And I think you've nailed it, that the idea that you would only market just to get people to your resort and you don't want anybody else to get the results of your marketing, that's a very, I'll call it a selfish mentality. Whereas if you have more of a collaborative mentality, which it sounds like you do, yes, you're going to get people that come and don't stay with you, but the majority of people are going to have such a positive perception of you as a result. You're providing a better visitor experience. And I just think that's a great way to approach running a resort.
Yeah, it seems to work. It definitely seems to work. So I'm glad. And it's also really nice to have these relationships with the rest of the Grampians. It's really, really lovely position to be in, to be very honest.
Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit about some of the marketing activities that you're doing for your resort.
So, in the light of COVID-19 or in general, or
I would say, what were you doing before, and then how has that changed since COVID-19 hit?
so really what we did, and this sounds is maybe not what you want to hear, but we did no marketing whatsoever. What we did was offer amazing product and a very humble approach. So we started from scratch and we rebuilt the product, and people could see the sweat and tears and hard work and effort and money we put in it. And due to the fact that we were so available to our customers, because I was there 70 hours a week, every day, every minute, they would get me on the phone, and they seen our progress. And people love a younger couple having a go at something, and with full passion. So as a result of that, they would talk at dinner parties and do the whole, oh my gosh, these guys in Halls Gap, they're doing such a wonderful job. And every time we go, they've done something new and it all looks amazing. And they're just a young couple having a go and all that. So then I started asking people for reviews, because they were telling me in the office all the time how amazing their experience was. And then I said, well, would you be able to put a review up? It doesn't matter which platform, just wherever you like. That helped me an awful lot. Marketing itself, I had a Facebook page, and every now and then I would do a little post because I had a minute on the toilet, I had a little thought. But I was so busy and self-involved with building up that product and supplying an experience to my guests that I didn't really have time for marketing. And that's how it rolled. Word of mouth started happening, and I built up an 82% occupancy rate before I got hit by COVID-19 in a very short 8 years. Although they feel very long, but it was a short 8 years. So it's maybe not the answer you were hoping for, but
Oh no,
marketing.
it's exactly the answer I was hoping for. I mean, what you guys did is you focused on your product and your brand and trusted that the quality product that you built was going to result in more and more visitors. And an 82% occupancy rate in the industry is obviously great. And so now that COVID has hit you guys, have you had to start thinking about marketing in a different way than you had before? Is your approach different? How do you plan to react to what's happened since COVID hit?
First of all, I take a little bit more charge of my time management. I think that's really important. Um, so I'm trying to work a little bit more on my business as well as in my business. So I still have this contact with my guests and my staff, but I also have the ability to review where we are at and where I need to invest in to make sure that I keep reaching my goals. That seems to work really well. I am more personal with my guests on a less personal basis. And I mean that I am sharing more of my personal life through newsletters, and really those who are very, attached to us and really see me as that publican, say it that way, they still get the opportunity to get a piece of me. That is really important. So I'm a little bit more sharing than I was before. I am trying to get a lot more personalized itineraries out to guests. I really want
Okay.
people to feel they are special, because they are special, because I feel so honored that they're choosing my destination to spend their first or second holiday after this lockdown. Feel very honored when people do that. So I want to give
Great.
back. Yeah. So it's still not that marketing, you say, because I am like a magnet at the moment. People are coming out of woodworks and they must be a nail and I must be the magnet, because we are getting inundated with people at the moment.
Well, and you and I talked about that a little bit before the show, and so much of that is how people are now as drawn to rural and outdoor destinations as they've ever been. And so it sounds like you're really seeing a lot of traveler pressure as a result of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so one of the worst things which has happened to me is that people get angry all the time with us because they can't get in. And now, because we didn't have booking standing, because we didn't know, only 5 days before we were able to open again, we saw on TV that we were able to open again with restrictions. But people saw that as opportunity, and they started ringing and saying, "Oh, we've been trying to get in here for years, and we never get in. But now you must have no bookings." So that was a really great opportunity to get some new people in the business. And again, they will experience it and they will come back because they think it's so amazing. The nature is so beautiful here. We have kangaroos hopping around our caravan park every day. It's
Oh, how
sensational.
awesome.
I know. And even us Victorians love that. So that was a great opportunity. And the other thing what will happen is we are not allowed to travel interstate in Australia. And I don't know what your restrictions are, but we can only stick to our state right now. And that means that all those Victorians can't go to Queensland or the Northern Territory or overseas even. So I think there is like over 5-6 billion, million people living in Victoria. If they all going to try to find a new destination to go and explore somewhere, we will fall on that radar too, just naturally, because we are a nature-based experience and there's not all that many around. So I think we will recover real quickly. And that might
Great.
be encouraging for you too, because that's human being. It's not Australians who need to get out. That's human beings who need to get out at the moment. And hopefully that will happen for you as well in America.
Yeah, there's so much, I call it pent up demand of people that haven't been able to leave their houses for a couple of months, and they're just dying to get out. And I love that you guys now have an opportunity to focus more on your local visitors, local stakeholders, because it's going to just build a larger customer base. And it's probably somebody who may not have thought of you before because they were going to Queensland or to other parts of Australia, but now they're more likely to visit your resort and to visit Grampians. And when everything gets settles into the new normal, whatever that new normal is, that essentially doubles the amount of visitors that are considering your destination because now the locals are getting their turn.
Absolutely. And the other thing I was a little bit concerned about, Adam, was what happens if everybody is allowed to go interstate again or go overseas again? I was really concerned about, like, are we going to fall into a dip then? But then I've already leveraged of all those people who have been to the destination in the meantime. they have all got their experience and stories ready to go and tell those other destinations they're going to travel to, because we're not going to keep talking about COVID-19. We're ready to talk about positive experiences. So those people who have been on mini holidays in their own state and go and travel interstate, or they're going to travel towards international travel, they will bring their stories with them of their amazing experiences they've had in the interim time.
That's right.
And that's good. That's good too. So massive opportunity for everybody, really.
Well, talking about that customer experience and, the story that people are going to be able to tell as they leave, obviously there's new precautions, new restrictions that you have to have at your resort that you didn't have before. What type of new protective measures are you taking that you didn't necessarily take before?
So we've installed the plexiglass screens for us at the front reception. We've asked all families to just get one person of the family into the office instead of one mum, one dad, and four children. We're taking away the lollies and all these unnecessary items, even though the children would not consider them unnecessary. But we really don't want 6 kids to go drawn to the office at the same time to buy lollies. So we made the reception area a lot more less attractive. I sell a lot of local produce and all that, but I have just said no for the minute. I'm still open for the absolute necessity of some coffee, but at reduced hours. We have signs everywhere how many people can be in any space at any one time. So I'm allowed to open my toilets, Adam, my playground and my pool with restrictions. So there can only be so many people in the pool at any one time. And we've got an online booking system. We've worked that all out. But we're not allowed to open our showers, communal kitchen, communal camp lounge with open fire, our terrace, all of that we can't open, which is contradictional. And you could take that as something you get really agitated about. But I've decided to just sit on it and roll with it and not get agitated about it, because it's not good for my well-being if I go into that space. And I tried to go there, but I refuse to go there. So because there's not a lot open, we don't have a lot of issues, because I don't have to monitor how many people are in the camp lounge because it's closed. So we obviously have the cleaning of the cabins, which we clean always very thoroughly, but now we're using different chemicals and to really make it COVID safe. But the other reality is that we only have one in every 500,000 people in Victoria who have COVID-19. So
Right.
the risk levels are so little. So we're taking it really serious, and we really do everything according to government instructions. But because we're in the caravan park in this beautiful Grampians National Park, it's just, it feels really pleasant. And we had 400 people here. We had a long weekend last weekend, and everybody respected this new so much, and they didn't do anything out of line, and it was such a pleasant experience. It's like we all understand each other, and it really is, let's all be in this together, which they keep saying, and it makes me crazy, but it's true. Over the long weekend, everybody is in this together, and we don't want anything else than getting out of this as soon as possible. And we could see that. That was reflected in the behavior of the park. It was so lovely. So lovely.
So I think that's an important piece of information for all of our listeners, that even though there's a new normal, there's new precautions that you have to take, like closing the community kitchen, the community showers. The reaction that you're getting from your visitors is one of understanding, and it's not like it's causing major problems for the customer experience.
It felt very harmonious. Very harmonious. Yeah, absolutely.
That's great to hear, and I think that should be encouraging for everybody listening, because yes, there's going to be some inconvenient changes that are coming as a result of COVID, especially as destinations continue to open up. But like you said, all of us are in this together, no matter how cliche that term becomes, and visitors understand, for the most part, what businesses are dealing with, and hopefully that continues to happen, worldwide.
Yeah, I would suggest it will, because, as I said, we are all human beings, and there's no Australian human being and no American human being. It's a quite overall thing. I think you should feel confident.
Great. And one of the things that we talked about before you jumped on with us today, you inquired about the mood-based itinerary program that Liverpool talked about. Stephen Price from Liverpool, when he was here on the show, he talked about this itinerary program. Tell me your intentions and what your plans are with that.
Adam, do you remember those magazines we had as a child? And you could, multiple choice, and then depending on how many points you scored, how many A's, how many B's, how many C's, you got kind of a personality description out of it, or you whatever it
Yes,
was. Yeah, they were so much fun, weren't they?
absolutely.
I have this idea that you could say, Adam, are you planning on traveling as a couple, as a single, with your family, or with a bunch of friends? A, B, C, D. The second question, are you into surf kiting, rock climbing, horse riding, or sipping beer? A, B, C, D. Anyway, I would like to find a software, and please, listeners, if you have a recommendation, send it to me, because Liverpool wasn't exactly, he's on the mark, but not exactly what I was hoping to build. But depending on those answers, I would like to spit out itinerary straight back to them in an email without me having to interfere all that much, and really give them a really tailored itinerary idea. So we have these amazing wineries here. We have the largest regional zoo right opposite my new property. We have stunning little quirky cafes and restaurants, cute little shops, all these walks, hikes, rock climbing, abseiling, all these Aboriginal art. And there's so much to do in so many different varieties. And I thought, how cool would it be we could do this? Because I would really like to relive my childhood memories, and I use that as a philosophy in my business, hence the lollies in the front of the shop. But how cool would it be if you could fill in this questionnaire and then you do it a different way and you get a whole different itinerary? I think it's a different way of engaging with potential guests, getting them really excited about the region, because it will be right up their alley, because I nailed that. But I can't find the software.
Well, I think your idea and your plan is great, and you and I can talk a little bit about some solutions that I've seen out there that might help. But I love that your intention is you're even going to enhance the visitor experience even more by allowing them to not only decide where they're staying, which is at your resort, but help them to plan their whole itinerary while they're there. It's not your job to be a travel agency, and yet what you're doing is providing those resources to enhance the visitor experience. I love what you're doing there.
Oh, thank you, Adam. It comes natural.
Well, good. Well, I sure have enjoyed having you on, and I just wanted to ask you, how did you find our podcast, and how long have you been listening?
Well, I think I haven't missed an episode. My kids go to boarding school in Ballarat, which is an hour and 40 minutes. And only a year ago, I never heard of a podcast, I think. I have a
Oh,
30.
really?
Yeah, I was so self involved with running my business. How would I know about a podcast? I barely watched the news. I was just working, 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 working. But my kids go to boarding school, an hour and 40-minute drive away from here. So when I got air of the word podcast, I'm going to go, I'm going to have a look around. And I can't wait. I can't waste my time. And this is not criticism to anybody else, but I can't waste my time on a novel. Every time I read, I have to read something I learn something from. It's maybe because I have that psychology background. But so same with podcasts. I was listening to this Hamish podcast, and it was all about a con artist, and I'm going, it's lovely, but I really want to utilize my time. So I started doing a search, and I've landed, somehow the universe was landing me into your lap, and I got the destination marketing podcast started listing, and it's not only the content is amazing, and it's so wholesome, and it's so down to earth, and it comes from within. It's not some studied kind of approach. And I really enjoyed that. But the way you deliver your podcast is also so natural, and it really resonated with me. So I did the steam. I don't even know how long ago you started this podcast, but I did listen to all of them and got up to date. And then I got extremely excited every week to download the next one and pick my kids up from boarding school. It's added definitely some value to my life for sure. Just really enjoy it.
What a compliment. Thank you so much. That is very kind of you to say, and I really appreciate you listening and for coming on today and talking a little bit about your resort. I always like to, and you know this as a listener, I like to give kind of the final takeaway. What do you feel like is the most important piece of advice that you could give destinations, resorts, or anybody else in the tourism industry as they're trying to navigate or collaborate with each other during this time?
Well, I was thinking about this. It's to experience as many products as you can. I think if you are a product or a destination, it doesn't matter if you are a destination marketing agency or a product itself. Invest time to experience the product, the product of everybody in the region, or the key ones, or even not the key ones, the ones which are not so key, you think, but they actually are. But my experience is that the minute I have been in a place, I have my own experience, and it's so much easier to share that experience and really sell that experience if you have experienced it yourself. And I think, and that's the nicest way. I so often invite the industry to come and stay for a couple of nights. Do it midweek when I am quieter. I will look after you, see what it's all about, and I do the same your way. So I go out for lunch, or I go and play some mini golf, or I go and have a glass of wine somewhere. And it means that we all understand each other's product. And that makes it so much easier to understand your own destination and really build stories around it and share that with whoever comes, your friends, your family, visitors, everybody. But also from a destination marketing approach. Sometimes those people sit in offices too much, and they have great Zoom meetings and network meetings and conferences, but they haven't really experienced the region themselves. I think it would be very beneficial if we would invest a little bit of time each week and actually visit other product. That is my takeaway out of that one, or my giveaway, if you have the opportunity.
What a great piece of advice. I mean, it basically boils down to if you haven't seen it or experienced it from the visitor perspective, how can you convince the visitor that they want to have that experience?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that's my whole business model, because I was so naive and so humble and so inexperienced in the tourism industry. I saw it as a consumer, and I still am. And that is probably the secret of my success.
Well, this has been so much fun, Josephina. Thank you for coming on today and sharing with me and with our audience.
Thank you, Adam. It was an absolute delight.
Great. Same here. Well, everyone, this has been another episode of the Destination Marketing Podcast. If you're enjoying the content, please leave us a rating or a review, as that will help us continue to build and grow as a show. And we want to continue to bring you great content, especially as we're all navigating this crisis. So thanks, everybody, for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Today's episode is brought to you by Relic. As many of you know, I own an advertising agency called Relic, and we work specifically with tourism destinations. If there's any of you that are struggling with what to do next, or you've tried agencies that don't specialize in tourism, or if you've been using the local flavor for years and years and you're just looking for something new, I would say give us a call. Give us the opportunity to take a look at your plans, see what you're doing. Use our tourism knowledge and industry specialty to examine everything from your brand to your tactical execution and make recommendations of how to help. We'll do that assessment for free. We'll give you those recommendations for free. And if you like what we say, maybe you can hire us to execute on those plans. So kind of a risk-free opportunity to have us take a holistic look at everything you're doing. provide some recommendations, and you can kind of see us in action. If you're interested in having us do something like that, please send me an email directly at adam@relicagency.com. I would love to set that up with my team.